This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set? Cocked? Locked? Blissed? Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being in class with us today. Jason's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota at Genesis Communications Network. I'm Vincent Finelli. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. Welcome, Dr. Shealy.
Good morning.
This, I guess you were really busy in the last few seconds.
Well, but I'm here.
I'm so glad. Do you need some time or are you?
No, I'm fine. Let's go for it.
Okay. So I had a list of things to ask you about, and I was wondering if, do you have something that you'd like to start with before we get into, the things that...
I'm open sesame.
Okay. So we have a student, and she's in her 70s, and she lives on the left coast, and she wanted to call in today, but she couldn't, so she sent me an email with some of her results from a blood test, and she had some questions, and it said that she had this blood test done last September, and she'd love to have your opinion. So here are the numbers. Cholesterol, 234. Triglycerides, 167. HDL cholesterol, 47. VDL, 33. VLDL, 33. LDL cholesterol, calculated is 154. And LD/HDL is 3.3, and CHO/HDL is 5.0. Any comments about what this means, Dr. Shealy?
Well, it's a little high. The cholesterol, the HDL could be a little bit better, but it's not bad. I would say she needs triamethylglycine and less than granules. Those are the two biggies.
Okay, and triamethylglycine, what would that do for her? And what is that? 2,000
milligrams 3 times a day.
2,000 milligrams 3 times a day. And what actually is that, Dr. Shealy, for those who are new to the class?
Well, it is a normal chemical that has the methyl molecule in it, and glycine, a favorite relation to sugar. But it does lower cholesterol better than any other single thing that I know. And less than granules also helps to lower cholesterol, but also helps your memory, because it helps you make acetylcholine.
Okay, and how much lecithin
2 heaping tablespoons twice a day.
2 heaping TBS2XD. Okay. She goes on to say that, let's see. All right. It was let's see. So my question is based on the number, on these numbers. Would Dr. Shealy recommend that I be taking Lipitor?
No, under no circumstance.
Okay. She said that each pill is 10 milligrams, and she's been taking it last year. Then she stopped. She doesn't remember why. But the doctor wanted her to go back on it. If Dr. Shealy agrees, then she should be taking it. Let's see. So you recommend that she not take Lipitor?
Under no circumstance would I take Lipitor.
Okay. And why? Okay. And why is it, Dr. Shealy? What is the negative of Lipitor?
Well, first of all, it ultimately kills your peripheral muscles in your legs, but then finally it gets your brain. It's one of the worst drugs in the world.
Okay. And then she said she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes in February of 2017, and the doctor put her on metformin. And she said, am I supposed to take 2 tablets a day, each 500 milligrams? However, I've only been taking it once a day after dinner. So that's the question about metformin.
Well, personally, I prefer Gymnema, Gymnema. 400 milligrams of Gymnema Sylvestra does a better job and is safer, in my opinion.
Okay, and that's in lieu of metformin?
Yes.
Okay, so she says that she has type 2 diabetes. Can she reverse that with diet?
Yes.
Okay, what is your recommendation for her reversing type 2
wheat,
diabetes?
No potatoes, no rice, no corn, no junk food.
Okay. No wheat, potatoes, corn, rice, no junk food. Of course, that means no sugar, soda, no sugar, no candy. Now, do you recommend weaning off these, or can she go cold turkey?
Well, personally, I would get on the supplements that I mentioned 2 or 3 days and then stop the Lipitor for sure.
Okay. So does she need to wean off Lipitor, or?
No, just take the new stuff for 3 or 4 days and then stop it.
Okay. So take the trimethylglycine and the lecithin granules and for a few days and then stop Lipitor. Is that right?
Yep.
Okay. And should she be taking the Lipitor with that as she's weaning off?
No, she's going to stop the Lipitor.
Okay.
Not wean, stop.
Okay. After just a couple days. All right. Then she says that she did some research and found that metformin depletes the body of vitamin B12. So she had a blood test done, and her B12 was A147. What does that mean to her, Dr. Shealy?
Tell me again, because that's an odd number.
Okay. She said her B12 was at 140. My B12 was A-147. She said the normal
very low. That's very low.
Okay, so what should she be doing?
Well, I would get methyl B12 and take 1,000 micrograms a day of that.
Methyl B12. Okay. And now, obviously, she's going to need a prescription. Is this something that she should call you for and have one of your phone consultations because she's a couple thousand miles away?
Well, she doesn't. She doesn't have to have a prescription for those things.
Okay.
I mean, they're over the counter.
Okay. And if she'd like to call you, 417-351-5221, is that the number she should call?
Well, if she wants to talk to me, yes. She should set up an appointment because otherwise I could triple schedule things.
Well, I guess it runs in the family, Dr. Shealy, because I've done that here on the radio. I've doubled and and then I go, oh man, what do I do? Yeah. Okay. So it says here that she was put in the hospital around the end of May for pneumonia. She was there for 3 days, and when they released her, they also made her go on insulin. She takes 10 units a night in the form of a shot in the stomach. Now, do you think that with her change in the diet, she can get off that insulin? Is that what you're thinking at this point, or do you need more information?
Well, I need more information still about Synthroid.
Okay. And she said she lost, let's see. She recently had surgery to remove an ovarian cyst, May, and she seemed to lose 20 pounds, and the blood glucose numbers have come down below 130, and it fluctuates daily. She said sometimes goes higher. Is there any concern about the weight loss of 20 pounds after this cyst? I don't know how much she weighs.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. And I get, and only a couple more questions. She said she cannot swallow a pill for the life of her, and so she's going to have to crush it. Is there any problem with any of the recommendations that you have made that will prevent her from crushing those supplements? No. Okay.
No, not at all.
All right. Now, are there things that people might want to take who cannot swallow pills that they absolutely should never crush because of the massive dose quickly that they would get?
Well, that's always a very unique thing, but most of the time it's okay.
Okay. And then she says, what vitamins and or minerals should she be on? What's good for vision? She has an astigmatism, and her vision gets worse with age. She has both distance and close-up glasses. So she'd like to improve her vision, if possible, and she'd like to know what vitamins, minerals, and supplements that you suggest that she consume.
Well, obviously, I don't know how much she weighs at the moment, so I'm a little bit concerned about making a specific recommendation.
Okay.
But she needs D3, depending upon her weight. If she weighs 140 pounds or more, 50,000 units once a week.
Mm-hmm.
If she weighs under 140 pounds, 50,000 units 3 times a month. She needs Dr. Shealy's Essentials, 2 a day. Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula, 4 a day. Astaxanthin, 10, I think in her case, 20 milligrams a day.
Mm-hmm.
That'll do it.
Okay. So let's let her know that she can listen to this. I'll send her a link to the broadcast. I'm pretty sure she's listening to it because she sent me all this information. It's a long email. And let's get her right on track to being well. Is there anything that she should not eat, Dr. Shealy, other than what you said? No wheat, potatoes, corn, rice, no junk food, etc. Are there any pluses that she should absolutely positively eat?
Well, fruits and vegetables, antioxidants.
Okay. Bananas?
Fine.
Okay. Avocados?
Excellent.
Okay. And we talked about nuts, of course. What about sweet potatoes?
Sweet potatoes, okay.
Now, is there a difference in the way the body handles sweet potatoes in terms of sugar compared to white potatoes? Are they different or? Okay.
Totally different.
Okay.
Infinitely better for you.
Okay. And then when it comes to greens, what greens should she eat in her salads? What should she put in a salad?
Well, I don't know any green that's not good. So.
Okay. Other than maybe iceberg?
I'm sorry.
Other than iceberg lettuce, right?
Well, iceberg lettuce is pretty much a waste of energy, but other than that, all green foods are good.
Okay, we'll be right back with Dr. Norm Shealy. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, medical doctor Amit in Massachusetts. Welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Good morning, Vincent, and good morning, Dr. Shealy. I have 2 questions. One is about tinnitus, and other is about selenium. First, the tinnitus part. I have a friend who is, I think, 67 or 68. He suffers from tinnitus for maybe 5, 6, 7 years, and he has lost all hopes of having it improved or cured. So, do you have any recommendation for him, or is this really an incurable disease?
And Dr. Shealy, did you hear that?
I did not hear the last 2 words.
Okay,
Amit. Is this really an incurable disease?
I'm still not getting it, Vince.
Okay, he's asking if tinnitus is an incurable problem.
The tinnitus is reversible. It takes 3 months, but it is totally reversible.
So, what would you please recommend him to do or try or contact you? Or
daily use of air and fire bliss. You put it on once a day, each of them.
I see. Once per day.
Yes.
Okay.
And Amit, you can get that, or he can get that at Dr. Shealy's website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com.
Okay. And while he's taking this air and fire bliss, do you recommend any recommended eating, or do you prescribe anything he should not be doing, or just like some recommendation to do or some recommendation not to do?
No, it's okay to do Skype and that kind of thing. Won't hurt it.
I think you might be talking about consumption, Dr. Shealy. I think you might be talking about food. Is that right, Amit?
Yes, sir. That is recommended food or food to stay away from. That's what I meant, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Dr. Shealy, what?
Food for tinnitus?
Yeah, what? Well, food that would help the body overcome the tinnitus problem while using air and fire bliss. So, in addition,
just good regular food. No wheat.
Okay.
No wheat.
Okay.
No corn. No rice. No potatoes. No sugar.
Dr. Shealy, correct me if I'm wrong, but should Amit's friend be avoiding the center aisles of the grocery store and just shop around the perimeter, meaning the fresh vegetables, fruits,
Everybody
nuts?
should shop that way.
Yeah. Okay, so Amit, what we're talking about, that's where
your tongue-in-cheek comment, but I think he'll have a hard time because while he recognizes sugar as the ultimate poison, he's addicted to that, so he'll have to do something to really benefit from what Dr. Shealy is saying.
Okay, so let's ask this question. Dr. Shealy, so many Americans are addicted to sugar. I mean, there's no question. It's obvious everywhere we look by what they eat. I would say 2/3 of the supermarkets are full of the things that contain a lot of sugar. Added by man, sugar in the contents of these products, these boxes and tubes and bottles of things that people buy and consume. If a person eats the typical amount of sugar that an American eats, would it be possible to get healthy while consuming the sugar poison? Is it possible, or is the sugar postponing the regaining of health?
Well, sugar is purely poison, period. It is not a food. It is a horrible junk.
Okay. Well, then let me ask a different way. Is it possible to be healthy while consuming the typical amount of sugar that an American consumes? Is it possible to be healthy and eat that sugar, or is it impossible?
Impossible.
Impossible. So, Amit, maybe that answers part of your question. Sugar's got to go.
Okay.
Amit, you're certainly welcome to stay with us. I know you have another question. So we'll be right back. Yes, please. Amit's going to hold. Dr. Shealy's with us. I'm Vincent. Dr. Norm Shealy's with us, medical doctor, Surgeon of the Year, and author. And he has a practice in Springfield, Missouri. And that's 417-351-5221. 417-351-5221. Website, normshealy.com, NORMSHEALY.com. That's the same place that I go to buy my vitamins, minerals, and supplements. I take them every day. And I take Dr. Shealy's Youth Formula, take Dr. Shealy's Essentials, and that is something that you should all be considering. Seriously. Amit is with us, and he has some more questions for Dr. Shealy. Go ahead, Amit, please.
Yes, Dr. Shealy, can I speak now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, my second question about hearing a lot about selenium being an important supplement. So what is your opinion on that? And if you have a positive opinion, does one of your supplements which you might recommend have selenium?
Yes, I take 200 micrograms.
And which of your supplements has that?
Yeah, 200 micrograms of selenium daily. Yes.
Right. And I think what he's asking Dr. Shealy is, does your Dr. Shealy's essentials contain enough selenium, or does he need to add more selenium? I think that might be the question.
Yeah, I would add if he takes my essentials, he could take just 100 micrograms additional.
Okay, so your Dr. Shealy's essentials has 200 micrograms of selenium.
No, I think it has 100 micrograms, but I'm not sure. I haven't looked it up in years.
Okay,
I can go to the kitchen during the next break and read the container if you'd like. Do you want me to do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So
what else do you have? What other question?
Hold. That's all. Those were the two questions I wanted to ask. So I'll hold for Vincent to let me know.
Okay. Amit, I've got a question. I have a question for you.
Yes.
And I've received a number of your emails. I want to thank you for that. And and they're really brilliant. They really are. I wanted to ask you about the We the Villagers policy. So, have you given any thought to us having a policy? What we're saying is to flesh this out a little bit. You know, the police have a policy, so they've been trained to put their knees on our neck. They've been trained to go home at night, which means they've been trained to shoot first. And then they go, what? Y'all trained us to shoot first, and now you don't seem to think that we should be shooting first. So which is it? So, and then the police pull us over and they yell at us license and registration and proof of insurance and things like that. So my question for Amit Singh is, what about us having our policy? Policies and procedures.
I think I once wrote to you about the policy, and I think I also added that that's based on U.S. patent law. So my short answer is that the villagers should have every device and training the police has. And I have a long answer as well that take maybe a minute or two. I can give that as well. And I think it's just expounding on that basic thought that whatever police has, training, devices, computing, car, weapons, the villagers should have the same thing, or should have liberty to acquire the same thing. Of course, they'll have to buy it on their own. But that's the basic policy I think our country is converging to.
A number of years ago, probably 8 years ago, I wrote a one-sentence bill that I proposed on the radio become law. And that bill was simply, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me, but it's just one sentence long. And I thought it should become law. And that was that we, the people, have the right to have any weapons that the government has. Simple as that. So if they have a handgun with frangible bullets, we should, if we want to. If they have a high-powered sniper rifle with a great big scope that will kill somebody at, let's say 700 yards, we should be able to have one too. If they have tasers, we should have them. If they have body armor, we should, if we want. If they are riding around with mine-resistant ambush protected vehicles, MRAPs, we should. If they have a requirement that their vehicles can sustain a 75-mile-an-hour crash from the rear, ours should have that too. If they have bazookas and rocket launchers, Or should too. We should too. If they have drones, we should too. If they have tripwires in their buildings so that if they are breached, people will fall down and get hurt, we should too. So whatever it is they have, our policy should be that, it applies to us too. Whatever they want to do, we can do it too. And Rich Stevens says that very well. He says that no double standards. If they can do it, we should be able to do it. Now, is that what you're saying, Amit? Because that's what I'm saying.
You only cover the device or the hardware part. What is important is the training part. Training, that is training to get trained and training to be emotionally ready for whatever is to be done. Let me describe just one example. I think I'll take a little bit, maybe 2 or 3 minutes. That
sure.
is, when lethal injection became the standard capital punishment measure almost throughout the country, there were some mix-ups, and I think Dr. Shealy can correct me if I'm going wayward. So many state governments asked anesthesiologists or physicians to supervise that capital punishment because they needed to mix and sequence those chemicals to stop the muscle, stop breathing, so on and so forth. But not a single physician came forward because they said that they had the Hippocratic Oath. They cannot participate in anything which is doing any harm or death or something like that. But just contrast it with what happens with federal government in waterboarding. Waterboarding is taking someone very close to death and just short of dying, pull that man back so that he can talk. So I'm 98% sure that there might not be an anesthesiologist or physician present, but the staff or FBI or law enforcement people, whoever do that, they are trained by a physician. That is just to go how far and not go too far. So in my understanding, that physician must be knowing where this skill is going to be used, but they still train them nonetheless. And that is because of the security of anonymity. So all I'm saying is that this type of training, particularly the emotional and mind work training, is also very important. That right should also be with the villagers, apart from the devices and the hardware. That's all.
Very, very well said, Amit. And so, Dr. Shealy,
incidentally,
yes,
the Essentials has only 25 micrograms of selenium. So
he needs 125 more.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Amit, you need Dr. Shealy's Essentials plus 125 more micrograms of selenium.
Yeah, I think he recommends taking that 3 or 4 tablets per day or 3 or 4 capsules per day. So that.
And Dr. Shealy, to be clear on this, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you're saying that the daily recommendation from you is 200 micrograms of selenium per day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, that means he should take 175.
Okay, 175. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Got it. Yeah.
And Amit, I believe that what you're saying is something that the people should consider. And so that when we get attacked and we respond with the same kind of force that they use, and they say, what are you doing? We say, well, it's our policy. It's our policy.
Let me give another example of the mental or emotional part, which is shorn of all violence. And I think I saw it from Aaron Russo's documentary, maybe it's about 2 decades old, From Freedom to Fascism. So at a point, there's a discussion of some British parliamentarians saying that any populace, any public which is just educated, healthy, and debt-free is so hard to rule. Just educated, debt-free, and healthy is so hard to rule. Now I'm adding from my own, there is no weapons, no violence, no fighting involved. Just those 3 things make life so difficult for any government or any king.
So educated, debt-free, and what was the other one?
And healthy.
Oh. You know, it's interesting you've mentioned those three things because that's who we are here at USA Prepares. We are.
That's why you are a pariah. So that's why you are hard to control.
Dr. Shealy, what are your thoughts about that? We're hard to control because we're healthy, debt-free, and educated. USA Prepares. I mean, that's probably a single thread that runs through all of us. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. Shealy? Doesn't that seem right to you?
Of course. Foolproof.
We must be driving them crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you add the devices you were listing, plus these three things which we just added, it's really a very difficult situation. And to put it just in another way, to some people who are receptive to my way of thinking, I just tell them that just see a police officer on the road. So the car, computer, mobile phone, or network, or devices or training he has, everything is available in the free market, maybe a little bit better, a little bit worse, more pricey, less pricey. But no government will really want every citizen to be equipped and trained like that police officer. That speaks something about what government wants and how it thinks.
Dr. Shealy, I believe that you asked me a couple of weeks ago, when the Civil War would begin. I believe that the question was something like that. Was that right? When would the Civil War begin? And my response was that the Civil War combined with the Revolutionary War, meaning the Second American Civil War, and the Second American Civil War had already started. Well, it kind of looks like that's true, doesn't it, Dr. Shealy? If you consider the news of all the protests and the riots and the lawlessness across the cities, across the United States, it's here. We have the Civil War of armed militia against armed militias. We have the government against the armed militias. We have the people against the government. We have the corporations against the government. It is here, the tear gas, the shootings, the rioting, the burning down of buildings, etc. We'll be right back with Dr. Shealy in a minute. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, medical doctor, and Amit is with us in Massachusetts. Question for Amit. Are you seeing any violence in Massachusetts?
No, that's what I wanted to comment on, maybe on my own. And I think that is what I call left as an exercise to a motivated reader or thinker, that many large cities, say Portland, Seattle, are still having rioting, but there's still no rioting in villages and small towns. So anybody should think, why is that difference and why does that difference endure? So I think the answer is that there is more property to be destroyed in a large city and there are fewer people who are armed. But for the same reason, the rioters don't like to come to a village because there is less property to destroy and there are many more people who are armed.
Okay, that's a really good point, Amit. The Finelli family has a reputation here for protecting our property. And I don't know why this is. I don't know all the reasons why, but some of the reasons have to do with people who believe I am in the mafia. And that's okay, and I'm not going to help them change their mind at all. And there are people who literally will steal fence posts. So, for example, we have, Dr. Shealy, I'm sure, has the same kind of fence posts, these steel green fence posts that are pounded into the ground every 10 feet or so. And there's barbed wire strung between them. Well, people will cut the clips that hold the barbed wire to these green fence posts. You can buy a levered fence post puller. It's a device that's probably, let's say 4 feet tall. It's got a foot, kind of like a jack on an old car, and a lever, and you just hook this fence post puller, a little chain to the fence post, and you pull down the lever and pops the fence post right out. So within about a minute, you could pull out a fence post and just walk down, get another one, And that's happened. That's happened across the road from us, but not ours. And I believe the reason that our fences have not been taken down and stolen is because people think that I'm crazy. And they believe that I will defend our property. And they believe that if they do try to steal our cows or our property or, fencing, they'll end up, being at the bottom of a backhoe bucket and never to be seen from and never to be seen from again. Now, I'm very serious. So there's this, I haven't threatened anybody, but I think they think that might happen. So we don't have here on our farm, but around us, there's plenty of it. There's plenty of theft going on. Home invasions, well, we'll call them burglaries. When people are out, their homes are broken into and then things are taken, but not ours. And maybe it's because one day when we first moved in, a local said to me, what would you do if you found somebody in your house? And I looked at him and he didn't know me. I mean, other than, I'd been here a couple of weeks probably and just moved in 15 years ago. And I said, well, I'd shoot him. And he looked at me, aghast. You'd shoot him? And I said, of course I'd shoot him. You're saying, that he is in my house and I assumed he has intent to do harm, intent to hurt us or kill us. And he's not invited and he's burglarized our home. Of course. And, maybe that's the message that spread around the town that this guy's in the mafia and that you break into the house, they're going to kill you. You'll never be seen again. Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's because I drove an old Mercedes when we moved in here and the gal at the farm supply store said to me, Vincent, why do you drive that big old Mercedes? And I said, well, you can put two bodies in the trunk. And I said it with a straight face. And another time I bought some lime, hydrated lime. And, farmers know what hydrated lime's for. It's to stop the smell of rotting flesh. So, I went to that same farm supply store. I said, yeah, I'll have lime, right? And what kind of lime? Well, hydrated lime. And that's the expensive stuff. It's more than twice the cost of the agricultural lime. And they said, yeah. I said, well, can I get a couple bags? It's like nobody wants a couple bags of that, right? Nobody. But I did. And so they're thinking the trunk, the backhoe, I'd shoot someone who invaded our home and, the lime. I mean, it all makes a lot of sense, right? So maybe that's what happened. But there is something to be said for a deterrent such as that. But I don't go around saying, I'm going to kill people. The guy just asked me, what would you do? I told him exactly what I would do. Dr. Shealy, any comments about that?
Right on.
Well, we live in Dr. Shealy and I live in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody coming to help us. And I believe that the farmers around here and where Dr. Shealy lives, if they find that they are being threatened with death, bodily injury, they're going to respond with bullets. I believe that's what's going to happen. And if they're invaded, they're going to respond with bullets. Kind of like the
villagers are still right free.
Yeah. Amit, did you want to hang with us? Class, Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. We've been talking about nutrition. We've been talking about diabetes. We've been talking about cholesterol. And we've got Amit. Amit, did you have any other questions for Dr. Shealy or me?
I don't have any other question. I think you just asked me how Massachusetts was doing riot-wise. So I'll just say that Massachusetts is still quiet. I think we have a unique situation of most lawmakers being Democrats, but Massachusetts has a tradition of electing a Republican governor. So he may be a Republican in name only for some, but I think that creates some checks and balances. So we are not as bad as, say, New Jersey or California. For example, we still don't need masks inside our homes. So I think we are still doing better than many other states. That's all I want to say.
Amit, thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
Thank you, Dr. Shealy. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Dr. Shealy, masks in the home. That's something that is coming up more and more and more. Any comments about masks in the home?
Well, yes and no. My comment is no.
Mm-hmm. What if a person is diagnosed? Let's say, let's say the young son, maybe 18, 16 years old, has been going out playing with friends, comes back, tests positively, and then there's mom and dad, and maybe a grandparent or two might live in the same house to save expenses. What about that situation where someone who's healthy is tested positively? What are there any special requirements that you would suggest for that, or procedures or practices for that family?
Well, to me, the most important thing is D3 and vitamin C.
Mm-hmm. Okay, vitamin D3 and vitamin C. And would you say, well, if the person has tested positively for COVID-19, that they maintain more distance, not touch the same things, or just go on normally as they would in the good old days before COVID-19?
Yes.
Just go on with their business, as if no one's infected. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it depends on how sick they are. You know, if they just have a little cough, maybe a low grade fever, 100 or less, I wouldn't be too upset.
Okay, so they can use the same dishes, spoon out of the same bowls on the kitchen table.
Well, again,
I
would be eating out of the same bowl for sure.
No, I don't mean eating out of the same bowl, but let's say they're serving a meal that has green beans in one bowl, and corn in another bowl, and salad in another bowl, and let's say a meat dish in another bowl, and they just help themselves. There are utensils. Let's say there's a spoon for for each one of those dishes and tongs for the salad, but everybody's going to touch the same tongs, spoon, fork, etc. from the serving bowls. Is that a concern or not?
I would suggest that if somebody has a strong suspicion of the virus, they should not be using the same serving tools. So they should be served and not serving.
Okay. All right. And what about, should they be in a separate quarantined in a separate area of the house, or can everybody watch TV together in the living room?
Well, it depends on whether they watch TV at all.
Well, I'm just thinking, people
in my house,
people
they don't
are
watch television.
Right. I understand. But I'm just thinking the average American family, you call them up and you can hear the TV going on in the background because they need that noise, or they need that distraction. The rest of us are busy reading or working. Yeah. But for those living in apartments, there's not much else to do. Well, there's reading, of course, and there's handicrafts. But other than that, if they haven't prepared for that, it's going to be tough to get into that. But because of the supplies. But what I'm saying is it okay for them to spend? All right, can they all read in the same room? Can each have their own book and just read? Maybe 3 people on the sofa reading side by side, or should the person who is tested positively, be off in the far bedroom, spend time there?
I would say that's a wiser thing to do.
Okay. All right. I was thinking about the blood supply, Dr. Shealy, as more and more people are admitted to the hospital for whatever reason. Is our blood supply at risk, plasma, because of COVID-19? Or is it just as good as it ever was?
Well, obviously it's an increased risk. But considering the fact that I haven't heard a fact that is disputed by one or more other people, I don't know how to really address it.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right, because we are hearing both sides of everything. Dan in Texas, welcome. You're on with Dr. Norm Shealy.
Yes, thank you for taking my call. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
5 by 5, yes.
Okay, great. I just tuned in, so you were talking about masks. A side note from masks, before I go back to that, eczema. Is there any things that you can recommend for eczema?
Well, like everything else, eczema is a weakness of the immune system. So you do everything you can to keep your immune system strong. And that includes, of course, D3, K2, my essentials, my youth formula. Those are the minimum for a healthy immune system.
Okay. And on my finger right now, I have my pulse oximeter that you recommended about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And if I'm looking at it and it has 0.97 and then 75, I guess you need to know what those are. Are you familiar with this particular pulse oximeter?
I'm not.
Okay.
Dr. Shealy, what he's talking about is he has one of these finger hinged with a spring finger pulse oximeters, and you just squeeze. It's like a paper, not a paper clip, a clothespin,
right, yeah.
except that's what he's got. And I believe he said 75 is his heart rate and 97 is the oxygenation. Is that right, Dan?
Yeah. So I see percent SpO2 is 0.98, and then the PR something PM is 66.
That's good.
Okay, so I'm alive.
Well, yeah, but okay. So, Dr. Shealy, would you please share with him what those numbers are, what the 66 now means, because that's different, and it changes depending on your stress level and your movement and physical stress, mental stress, all that. So, what does the 66 mean, Dr. Shealy, and what does the 97 mean?
Well, 97 is the percentage of blood that is oxygenated, and that is excellent. It's 66. It sounds like a pulse rate, and that's a nice, not alarm, a non-agitated heart rate.
Okay. So now going back to the math.
Dan, before we leave the pulse oximeter, what is your reaction to having owned one? By the way, I just checked mine. Mine's 63 and 97. I'm not in a contest. I just wanted to share with our class. I'm relaxed here. Although I'm on the radio and there's some stresses and things going on, that's where mine is. And you may want to get one of these. I bought another one, Dan, because I wanted to make sure that if this thing quit, I had another one. So I paid $16 for mine. What did you pay for yours?
I think about the same thing. The same day that you were talking about on the internet show that I was on live, I went to my famous Amazon account and purchased more stuff that actually makes sense.
Okay. Is yours blue, like a blue top with a red display and kind of a blue and white body?
Yes. And, pretty much what you just said.
Okay. All right. The reason I'm mentioning that, class, is if you want the same one that Dan has, the same one I have, I've had mine for years, maybe 3 years, maybe 4 or 5. It works great. It really is durable. Of course, it's, made in communist China. But if you want one, I suggest you get that. And the reason I want to get another one is I wanted to compare them. I wanted to verify the readings of one versus another. Because as much as I want to believe the reading, I also want to verify with another device. So that's my thought. $16, I bought it on eBay, and it's called a pulse oximeter. Dan and I have the same one. It's got a red LED display, a large display. It's got a white body with blue trim, and you'll find it. And so $16. And the price went up. They were a little less expensive. They've gone up a little bit, maybe 50%. But you can still get them. Yes, please continue, Dan.
Okay, so because I just tuned in when you were talking about masks, and that's what brought me up with this pulse oximeter, is being a school teacher and having to use a mask. the oxygen that I'm basically recirculating in my mask will probably be a problem. Now, I know some states have certain regulations where you should have enough oxygen to breathe, whether it's 20%. What are your thoughts on, and what's maybe the best mask where you can still breathe and not pass out as being a teacher?
I don't have the foggiest idea. I am not a mask person.
Dan, here's the problem. The problem is that, and I'm not trying to play doctor. I'm just talking about some of the physics of this. The problem is when we exhale, there is moisture in what we exhale because the air is coming out of our lungs, and it's got more moisture in it. Okay, and that moisture is going to tend to collect on the masks. That's a problem. Then, as the moisture gets between the fibers of the mask is more restrictive. So the more labored the breathing is going to be because of the increased restriction of the mask fibers with the moisture in the mask fibers. So the more moisture, the more moisture. And that's why in the summer you see, people who might be in a dusty environment like farmers, they take off the mask because they can't breathe. Dr. Shealy, any comments about that, Dr. Shealy?
Well, that's why I don't like to wear a mask. I find it very
So, Dan,
annoying.
I do have... Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you wear glasses, they fog up the glasses. I do have some comments that you might want to hear. We're going to go into a break, and I'll tell you about the mask that I use. Now, I don't spend much time out in public, but these are the ones I wear on the farm because I'm in a lot of dust, and I want to protect myself from that. We'll be right back with Dan and Dr. Shealy. Class Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, normshealy.com. That's the place for your vitamins, minerals, and supplements. That's where I get them. Dan's with us in Texas. So, Dan, you had a question about masks, and I'll tell you what I do. I'm not speaking as a medical professional. I'm speaking as a farmer. And I use, and I have been for years, way before the corona panic, I've been buying these masks. And I wear them for dust because when I get out in the hay, it's dusty. When I'm going down the road in the tractor, it's dusty because we live on a dirt road. So the one that I use is made by 3M. And that, by the way, that stands for Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing. And it's an old company. And the model number of the one I use is 8511. So it's 3M model 8511. And it's an N95. And the interesting thing about this is it's multi-layers of spun fabric, and it has a valve. And this valve is to allow the exhaled air to go out without clogging up the fibers of the mask. So inhale, it's a one-way valve. It only allows air to exhale from the mask. And so the inhale air goes through the fibers. The exhaled air goes through this valve in the center of the mask. And you don't see people wearing these. So if you look up the masks on the internet, nobody's wearing these. I don't know why. Maybe it's because they're $2.50 a piece. Or at least they were in the good old days. So we would buy them several 10-packs at a time. And Mrs. Finelli and our boys wear these. And so do I. So that's my thought on the masks. Now I believe that if you wanted to extend the life of it, you would put it out in the sun for, 15, 20 minutes, let the sun's ultraviolet rays disinfect it, then flip it over and do the inside. Okay, so do the outside in the sun, the inside in the sun. Dr. Shealy, any comments about what I mentioned about the exhale valve on the mask and reusing them by disinfecting them in the sunlight?
Well, that sounds like a plan.
Okay. Do you think it's a viable plan, or do you think there's some holes in it?
I think it's as viable as any of them, Vince.
Okay. So, Dan, does that help you or not?
Yes, and thank you. I'm just looking at Amazon, but when you type that in, sometimes the marketing does a better job of getting you to another mask. So, was there a website that you would recommend? Because I don't see it on Amazon.
If you, here's what I did. I happened to be at DuckGo, DuckGo, one word, That's the search engine I use because allegedly they don't report to the other team what I'm looking for. So I typed in 2 words, 3M, 1 word, the number 3, the letter M, space 8511, 3M space 8511. And then, of course, you'll see all these other masks that have nothing to do with what you just typed in. There looks like surgical mask. They've got this black face covering mask. They've got a mask without a valve. Those aren't the masks. The one that the 8511 made by 3M does have a valve in the center to allow the air to escape. So if you click on the 3M website, when you'll get the link to the 3M website for the 8511 mask, then you'll see it has the valve. Okay? And it's a pretty darn good mask. And I've been reusing the same mask over and over and over, until I'm satisfied that it's no longer healthy to use.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So one more time, class. Let's see. 3M space 8511 mask. It's an N95. They're $2.49 a piece. You buy them in the 10-pack. It'd be nice. Now, if you can go get masks at Harbor Freight. And you'll get, they used to have them. I don't know if they have them anymore. But I've been to Harbor Freight in half a year. But if you go to Harbor Freight and get a mask, they are made for different shaped faces. You'd think that, I think they're for Chinese faces, and I think they are shaped a little bit differently from those of us in America, because I've tried them and they don't fit. They just don't fit. I would say they let 50% air flow around the mask rather than through the mask. So if you're thinking about Harbor Freight masks, and now if you got a face that fits that, that's great. Mine doesn't. My face doesn't fit that. Or that doesn't fit my face. Anything else, Dan?
Mosquitoes.
Okay. Hold that thought. We'll talk about mosquitoes on the other side of the break.
Thank you.
Okay. Dan in Texas, Dr. Norm Shealy, and I'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, normshealy.com. If you'd like to call and arrange for an appointment, the number to call is 417-351-5221 during normal business hours. And that's the Central Time Zone here in Missouri. His office is in Springfield, Missouri. Dan in Texas is with us. Dan, mosquitoes?
Yeah, I'll go outside. My wife and I will work in the garden, and the mosquitoes, they just love her. And, of course, she has problems with her eczema, so it's tough for her to go outside as well for that because of the heat. But what do you recommend for mosquito repellent, and why do they love her and not me? I'm kind of jealous.
I don't know, but there's something about vitamins. People who take certain vitamins, mosquitoes don't like. I don't know which one they are because I happen to be one of those people where I'm not particularly tasty up to mosquitoes fairly.
Dan, I don't want you to think you're alone. It's really interesting that you said that. So Mrs. Finelli seems to attract ticks and mosquitoes more than I do. She must be a lot sweeter. And your wife must be a lot sweeter. But no, and it's not because Mrs. Finelli uses a different soap that might have an aroma on her. We use the same soap. We use the same laundry detergent. Our clothes are washed in the same washing machine at the same time. So it's not that. It's not that she puts on lotions and potions and oils and things like. She doesn't. So it's not like she smells like roses because she, wears perfume per se. It's not. That's not it. And is that the same with your wife, Dan?
Well, I'll start taking showers. Maybe that'll help.
Well, I was going to ask Dr. Shealy about that because I've done some reading about Europe hundreds of years ago, And people would say, well, you can't be healthy because you don't have no bugs. So people who had lice and bugs in their hair, they were considered healthy because the bugs liked them. And the people who didn't have bugs were thought to be unhealthy because the bugs weren't in their hair. Dr. Shealy, that's exactly backwards, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Dan, do you remember reading anything like that?
Well, my backyard, everything in the backyard is edible, and what I've researched is if my plants are healthy, the bad bugs aren't going to attack them as much, but if my plants are suffering, they just go to them like fly on something.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's attack the weak. Yes. That's what we see here at our farm as well. So there's fungus on trees that are, they're dying. Good point. So, Dr. Shealy, we don't know what the answer is. Is that what we're saying?
That
we
is
don't know
correct.
about why Mrs. Finelli and Mrs. Dan in Texas are bug magnets. And huh.
What would you recommend
I wonder,
for repellent?
Dr. Shealy, your thoughts on a repellent?
I don't understand the question.
The question is, what repellent should Dan and his wife use to have the insects go to their neighbors instead of visiting them?
Well, I would particularly like tea tree oil.
Tea tree oil. Okay. So just apply that to the skin?
Yeah.
Okay. Any negatives with tea tree oil applied to the skin?
Well, you don't want it too much on your skin. You can actually put it on your clothes.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I don't seem to have a problem, so I haven't been concerned with that. And, Dr. Shealy, I'm wondering if maybe, now there's, I use a lot of magnesium spray. Do you think maybe it tastes terrible?
I have no idea. I've never drunk it.
Well, I know if you have a cut, it sure does burn.
Yes, it would.
If you shave and you got little nicks and you get magnesium spray on your shaving nicks, it'll burn. Okay. I wonder if that's the difference. So Dan, we don't know.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks for your time. Just an update. I tasted my first moringa tree leaf, and it's delicious. I have 4 of them growing out in my backyard, and I hope yours are doing just as well. Well,
I think mine. I gave them a taste of something they didn't like, so I have to start over. I poured some coffee in there, this black coffee, in the water, and they took off. And I thought, gosh, they really like this. I bet they'd like another one. And they took off. And they kept growing and growing and growing. And then all of a sudden they said, I don't think we like this coffee anymore. So I have to start over. Well, you know what? When I had a job, there was a guy who worked with us and I think he had a little bit of laziness. And if he went over to the coffee machine to top off his coffee, he would stop at this plant between his desk and the coffee machine, and he would dump his coffee in this plant, and it seemed to really like it. Like every day he would do this. And so I thought, well, maybe this plant would like it, but no, I don't think it liked it initially, then changed its mind and didn't tell me. So, do you feel any different after you've eaten it?
Well, I mixed it in my salads, and I hate to ask another question, but
no, go ahead.
Out of everything in the backyard, I'm learning that a lot of the leaves of things that I'm growing, even grape leaves, I put in my salad. So I figured I'd put the moringa in my salad, and of course it was all mixed. So, needless to say, do you have any recommendations on what leaves? I eat a salad every day, and do you have any recommendations for things that you're already growing that you can put leaves in your salad? Well,
It's a wide variety of lettuces, spinaches, Chinese cabbage, There's some lettuces I've been using the last couple of summers. Johnny's seeds had a couple of different kinds of lettuce do well in summer.
Dr. Shealy, what are your thoughts about dandelions? I actually planted them, and I like dandelions, but wash them because
I'm not opposed to them at all. I'm just lazy. I just don't go to the trouble of harvesting them.
It's a little bit of effort. Dan, have you tried dandelion leaves?
I just planted some dandelions 2 weeks ago, but here in Texas area, it's real tough. Back when I lived in Denver and Idaho, they grew in my yard. We treated them like they were a Democrat. Oops, did I say that out loud? But now I realize if you have cancer, that's one of the best things. So I used to do the dandelion tea to help with cancer prevention.
Dan, I've got a question for you that I'm pretty sure you can answer. Here in Missouri, there is when there's a funeral, it's a respected tradition. So what happens is, if let's say you're traveling in one direction and there's a funeral procession coming toward you, what happens in Missouri is the funeral procession is an unbroken chain. Sometimes there's a police vehicle leading the procession, from let's say the funeral home to the cemetery, and the headlights are on of all the vehicles, and the traffic going toward this procession pulls over onto the shoulder of the road, gives them a wide path, even though there's absolutely no reason to do it in terms of traffic, no reason to pull over when you're coming in the opposite direction. You're not impeding the procession at all. It's a respect thing. So that's what happens. So there's no question that people are paying attention to funeral processions. I haven't been out very much, but what I've noticed is I have not noticed a funeral procession. And so my question is, where are all these bodies of all these people who are allegedly dying? I haven't seen the processions. Now, maybe people aren't attending the funerals. I don't know. Are you seeing evidence of funerals in Texas compared to what you saw in the past? Was it easily identifiable that that's a procession or not? And has anything changed in terms of the numbers of funerals?
I haven't come across any funeral processions, but I see that out of respect to pull over to the side, and I guess I find humor in everything. And my brother got a ticket because he joined a funeral procession just so he could go through all the red lights. So that was about 20 years ago, but I digress.
Yeah, so you have not seen, am I understanding this correctly, that you have not seen a change in the number of funerals?
No, I mean, I don't. I know there's a few around where I live where you can drive by, and I'll start looking at them just to see if there's anybody attending those. But I guess when I'm driving, I haven't noticed anything out of the ordinary.
Okay. Do you know of anyone who has tested positive for COVID-19, or do you know any family who has a member that tested positive for COVID-19?
No.
Okay, I don't either. Dr. Shealy, how about you?
No.
Do you know?
Well, actually, I do know one patient, long-standing friend, who has tested positive and is doing well.
Okay. Okay. Can you describe, does this person, your friend, know how COVID-19 was acquired?
No.
Okay. Can you describe, were the symptoms serious, or was it no big deal? Was it like a couple sniffles, a little shortness of breath?
It was a bit more. There was a lot of coughing.
Okay.
The biggest symptom was a significant cough.
Okay.
But it passed.
Okay. I was walking by the phone Friday, And it rang, and I picked up the phone. We have a landline, so we don't have the phone following us around like a smartphone. I don't have one of those. The phone rang, and it was the doctor's office saying that Mrs. Finelli was a half a year late for her checkup. And so this happened to be a pulmonology department. So I asked, so what's the deal? Is this real? Is it fake? What's going on? And the gal who talked to me, I've met her in the past, she said they have a whole floor of patients. It's called the COVID-19 floor in Springfield. And they have as many as 4 deaths a day. That's what I was told. We'll be right back. Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. NormShealy.com, NormShealy.com. And Dan in Texas had some questions. So, Dr. Shealy, you know of someone, and do you think that there is damage to the body as a result of what most people might experience with COVID-19?
Well, with some people, there's no damage at all. They seem to handle it as a very mild viral infection. With others, it can lead to death. So we experience all possibilities.
Okay. It sounds like the recommendation, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Shealy, and we've got George in New Hampshire on hold. We'll be right with you, George. It seems like the recommendation that I'm hearing from today's broadcast is, distance is your friend. Don't go looking to get it. Be vigilant in what you touch. Wash your hands and your face early and often. And just be careful and keep your immune system up. Did I get it right, Dr. Shealy?
Yes.
Okay. Dan, I've got to go. We've got George in New Hampshire on the line. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. God bless. Keep up the good job. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. George in New Hampshire, welcome. You're on with Dr. Shealy.
Hi, Vincent. Hi, Dr. Shealy.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'd like to just bring this piece of information is that you mentioned about funerals and about, how many people are dying, where are all these funerals? Years ago, the undertakers were very concerned because at one point the death rate seemed to drop precipitously. And as the joke goes, business was dead. And they were concerned about this because they really had a drop-off in the number of deaths, and hence their business suffered. So the undertakers went out and they hired these research people, and they said, could you tell us what's going on? So after about a week, the research people came back, and they said, well, this only happened one other time. Now, I exempt Dr. Shealy from this, and the medical people who really take to heart their oath to do no harm to their patients. But they said that this happened once before, and they said the doctors had gone out on strike, and the death rate dropped precipitously. And they proved this, and they said this happened 20 years before that. And they proved this because it happened twice in 2 countries. One was Israel, and one was England. When you think of all these unnecessary operations or medical, mistakes, a lot of people die from medical error. I believe, Dr. Shealy, if you confirm it, I believe it's like the 3rd leading cause of death in this country.
At least, yes.
So I just wanted to weigh in on that, and I noticed that in my city, that pretends to really a town, but it pretends to be a city, we're off the beaten path a little bit, but I would hear the church bells toll when they were going to have like a funeral mass, and they were having a funeral being arranged, and then hence they would go to the cemetery afterwards. I have not heard the bells now for, I've heard maybe one time that I can remember in probably a couple of months.
Yeah. So I've looked up the telephone number of the coroner in our area, and I know him. I'm going to give him a call after the broadcast and ask him what's happening. Is it Dr. Shealy, wouldn't he know whether these cases are positive for COVID-19 or not? Wouldn't the coroner know for the county?
Maybe. in today's world, I can't say anybody knows anything for sure.
Okay.
That's how
Here's
confusing it is.
Okay. Here's another question then. So let's say it were the good old days, and but someone died of COVID-19. Is it possible that if people went to a funeral and knelt down right beside the deceased, that could get COVID-19 from that, or would the formaldehyde in the embalming procedure stop that? Or would the undertaker be susceptible by handling the body?
Of course.
Okay.
The undertaker's going to be, more open, if you will.
May I ask a question, Dr.
Bet.
Shealy there, and you, Ben, is, you know how they've dramatically increased the amount of vaccinations where you could go to a local drugstore and they'd be advertising free flu shots and the like. And now this has been going on for decades. Now, my sense is there could be a COVID factor in all of those vaccines that when they give these tests that are like 50-50, in other words, being exposed to one of the family of COVID in those vaccines from those flu shots might dramatically increase the amount of positives on the test. Would you agree with that? Possibility?
Yes, absolutely.
Here's another thought, George. How about if the tests were laced with COVID-19? So, well, it looks like you don't have it. Oh, now you do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
because I remember going into Sam's Club and you could get flu shots or immunizations for all kinds of maladies right there for free.